Well, welcome to my outdoor studio at Richie's Roost in downtown Shaco, Mississippi. It has been a glorious day. Fall air has visited Shaco. Beautiful weather. Both Ole Miss and Mississippi State have good football teams. Life is good. I got you for an audience, which I appreciate. Can't get any better than this. Oh, by the way, my bride, Perry, saw this, the other day, and she said, "You're not going to get on there and do a video looking like that, are you?" I said, "Yeah. You ought to see the other guy." Truth of it is, I was out bush hogging a couple of days ago. Bush hogging, that's a verb that we use here to describe cutting grass with a tractor and a rotary mower behind you. The verb bush hogging is named after a tractor implement that cuts grass. It is called a bush hog. So I was bush hogging with a bush hog and happened to run under an oak limb that I didn't think was as big as it was. Net of it was it almost raked me off of that tractor, and the wounds were worse on me than it was on the limb. The limb won. But I just got my chainsaw fixed this afternoon, and that limb and I are going to have another little visit this afternoon after I get through here. I do not take that kind of thing lightly. Last week, we talked about some jackpot justice, and that generated a lot of conversation and some stories. And one of them I just really feel like I need to tell you about, because you cannot make this kind of thing up. A friend of mine, longtime friend, you folks in Natchez in the class of 1955 at Natchez High School will know Doug sent this to me. Now, Doug worked for years with an oil company, retired from an oil company, was all over the, he had literally traveled all over the world, I guess. But there were some tales told in the oil fields in those days. Now, I did a little work in an oil field one summer and thoroughly enjoyed it. Loved the oil patch. Anyway, he saw that and he said, "I got a little story I might share with you." I said, "Well, let me know." And he did. He wrote it. And I'm going to tell you about it as best I can. You cannot make this kind of thing up, I'm telling you. He said an operator pumper, you'll have to look that particular operation up. His name was Leo. Fell off a tank on an offshore platform out in the Gulf and was injured. A helicopter flew him to the emergency care at a Lafayette, Louisiana hospital. Now, the manager of the platform and the superintendent were in the office and followed the event until they knew the employee was out of emergency surgery and was placed in a room and didn't have life-threatening injuries. But he did have 2 broken ankles and a damaged tailbone. Well, it was late at night, and the manager and the superintendent, after they'd checked him into the hospital and got all squared away, decided to go home and check on Leo in the morning. Well, by the time they got home, the superintendent received a call from Leo, who said in a panicked voice over the phone, "You have got to help me. 2 men tried to kill my wife, and I don't know where she is or if she's okay." Well, you can imagine the conversation about where he was, and he was sure that someone tried to kill his wife in the hospital, and the superintendent, superintendent and the manager drove to the hospital immediately, of course, expecting to find Leo out of his mind on some type of drug. It turns out 2 people had come into his room claiming to be friends from work. And when they were by his bed, his wife was helping him turn over to talk with the two men, and she saw motion in her peripheral vision and ducked, and a hammer hit her head. Well, she screamed, and the two men fled and dropped the hammer in the hallway as they exited the building. Well, the wife was found in ER, and the hammer had only grazed her head, and she was okay. But at this point, the local police had arrived, as well as company security. The wife didn't know the two guys who tried to kill her, but said, "I know who is behind this. I told Leo to leave that woman alone." Well, the plot was beginning to thicken, and from that point, it was found that Leo had a girlfriend, as well as his wife, and his girlfriend's husband was in prison. Stick with me now. Leo had other relations not pertinent to the investigation, according to Doug. Leo got kind of short on money, having to buy cars and things for both women. That'll happen, I'm told. And so of interest, Leo was teaching one of the female roustabouts on his off time on how to be a pumper. and he wanted to let her know how to do that, and for pay and fringe benefits. And it was found out that Leo told her he was short of money and had a plan to obtain a little money by faking an injury offshore. Now, his plan was to jump off that tank and fake a back injury, then sue the owner of the tank. Needed the money. Well, as Shakespeare said, not Shakespeare, who am I talking about? I'm talking about Bobby Burns said, the best laid plans of mice and men, gang after gley. The problem was when he jumped off the tank, he claimed he slipped and landed on a steel beam and almost killed himself. Well, due to his injuries, he was off work for months. Of course, the company had to pay for the medical bills and provide other compensation for him. The oil companies are good about that. But they couldn't fire him, as the story hadn't been fully fleshed out, according to Doug. While he was off, he filed a lawsuit against the owner of the tank. He did not file against his employer, because that way he could lose the payments he was collecting. Now, the defense lawyer felt good about going to trial. They said Leo's problem was that he was chasing fast women and slow horses. All of the above, he said, came out in the trial. All of the things that I just told you came out in the trial. It was held in New Orleans, along with other descriptions of Leo's escapades. But the verdict came in, and the jury awarded Leo $250,000. Doug said, "Go figure." Well, that's another story. And there'll be more, I imagine, that, we've already had 2 or 3 come in that were kind of interesting, but I thought that might be a good one to kind of include in the Jackpot Justice stories. So I may go pretty early in the afternoon here, And I'm going to go try and crank that chainsaw up and make sure that limb does not do that to me again. But I'm sure, as my wife can probably tell you, there'll be other limbs, I'm sure. Keeps you young. So, I'm Jim Ritchie. Good Lord willing, I'll see you again next time.